give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
To curb corruption, one must be courageous to confront and rise up against the corrupt. Sleep well, be guided by ethics and standards for peace of mind. Refresh Sri Lanka for a civic-minded society. LMD, the voice of business.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we're zooming in on the banking sector and SMEs. And with us, we have the CEO of National Development Bank, Mr. Dimantha Seneviratne. It's very nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
To start off our conversation, 2024 is a brand new year and there's a lot of changes, challenges as well as hopes in the minds of all Sri Lankans as we come together or hope to come together to come out of this crisis. If we zone in on the banking sector, in your perspective and in your assessment, what is in store for the sector for the year?
Okay, I think we are coming out from a very troublesome period. As you all know, the country went through a huge economic downturn starting from 2022 and 2023. I would say a recovery year, and I think we recovered remarkably well. I mean, with all the controls, all the economic measures taken by the central bank, where banking sector also worked together to ensure that from a very high inflation level of 70% towards mid-level single-digit inflation, country reserves have improved to more than $4 billion compared to what it was in 2022. Unfortunately, where we had to declare bankruptcy and all. And also some of the concerns on the domestic bond holdings or the debt restructuring, that concerns are also over. So we have overcome a lot and come into 2024. And this is, I would consider it as a recovery year, where from all these challenges, how we can now progress to ensure that prosperity is brought back to the Sri Lankans. So that's where banks have a big role to play as an economic intermediary, basically diverting funds from the depositors for the needy sectors of the economy to grow. So I would say that yes, with positive approach that we are looking at. On the other hand, banks should also have to have strong capital to support this economic growth. So that's where we have been building up reserves in terms of capital. Funding. I think now that the interest rates are stabilized and to a level that is much more acceptable for even the borrowers to borrow and then make economic activities, I would say that we are positively optimistic in getting the revival back, and banking sector is ready to support that growth.
We are very happy to hear a positive picture. Mr. Seneviratne, you're the CEO of NDB, but you're also a representative of the banking sector at large, I think with more than 34 years of experience and out of that 10 years in CEO capacity. Looking at it from a banker's perspective in general, if you look at the sector, can you give us some opportunities as well as challenges for the sector? Like you said, there are positives, but there are also certain challenges to overcome. What would you list as the pluses and the minuses?
Okay, I think one key area that, say if I first talk about the opportunities, I would say that the stabilization of the economy itself is an opportunity. And at a time that nobody was considering even medium-term projections, let alone even 1 year, or it was a survival game for some. But I think that stabilization of the economy is a great positive, I would say. So that gives hope for the corporates, SMEs to plan ahead. And we have seen some of those corporate and SMEs who were reluctant to come and even negotiate when they were in trouble and when they are performing the banking loans that are taken not performing that well. Now they are reluctant to come in even for discussion, negotiation, because they were not sure about their future. But now we see the reversal of that trend, and people have hope and they now come and negotiate, they want to come out. And similarly, we see investments gradually picking up in certain sectors. So that is one positive thing, I would say. The second one is on the trade side. Now the exports have actually done really well compared to some previous years. But other than the imports, though we had controls in imports or some of the restrictions, I think government has also announced with recent relaxation of some of the controls, there will be booming activities in the import side, which means the trading. So that would be a good news for the traders to work on that. On the other hand, the exchange rate also has stabilized. I think over the years, I think from high level of 360 level, we closed the year at 324. And it has further improved as of now. We are talking in the mid of first week of January, so 2024. So that's again trade side, I would say, opportunity. Another one is we have seen quite a good pickup in the tourism sector. Now this is a sector that was not performing for the last 4+ years, starting from the 2019 East attack. And the entire tourism sector was having huge issues for the 4+ years, and 2024 April we are actually completing 5 years of that. So imagine the one is the debt burden that this tourism sector is carrying on, plus they also couldn't invest in capital, which much needed capital that is needed to keep the sector going, basically the capital investment to keep upgrading the stars. So that was lacking, but the increase in the tourism arrival, actually it's a good sign, and we see even the customers that we finance, they have seen a revival, and that's a good hope that I'm sure that's one industry that I picked up again to look at on the positive side. Then the other one is on the interest rate stabilization that we had seen, that earlier we were talking about high rates of even 30% for government bills and bonds. Now that has come down to very reasonable level. So that would also give opportunity for the deposit raising fund as well, because when the bills and bonds are going at that rate, I mean there are certain sector of bank deposit that also moved into that. But now we see some of them coming back to the industry so that we can lend it back. So the fund side challenges that we had seen, we think we have overcome that. Of course, one challenge is some of the deposit that have been taken at high rates last year still remains, say, till April, May this year. But despite that, the interest rates have stabilized. Even the WPLR is now going at 11.8%, which is quite a good rate, and that has been, we have seen a quite strong trajectory of rates coming down. So that gives an opportunity for SMEs, corporates also to revive and continue their business and grow, and also get the opportunity of these low interest rates, specifically the long-term rates. When the long-term rates are low now, good to book that early so that you lock in your money at low rates and put there in your capital enhancement activities. Now these are the opportunities. But on the other side, from a banking sector, the things that we have to be careful and manage, one key element is the non-performing loans. Still the industry is talking about 15% gross non-performing loan level. The banking industry, if you take the non-banking financial industry, it's slightly higher than this. So that means good 15-20% of their book is still having problems, and then we need to support them. And that's why, as I mentioned, the customers are now coming for negotiations and they see the pickup of the trade. So that's one area, but we need to pay more attention to that, more people, and restructure these customers and help them out to come out from the challenge, because most of these non-performing situation is not because their own fault, but because of the country as a whole, the economic downturn as a whole. So that is one, the supporting of them. The other one is the margin compression. Net interest margins have come down, so that especially with the interest rates coming down, that would also have an impact on the banking sector. How to manage your margins, since I said that some deposits are also taken a high rate, but how do you manage it while ensuring your cost of funds are kept at a level that you can manage your business, because there's a business also to run. There's a fixed cost element, you need to cover your fixed cost also with that. So that's one of the key challenges that I see. Now another area that the banking sector and also I would say the industry faced is the high staff turnover. We had seen quite a significant staff turnover entire industry, double-digit staff turnover. In some cases, it has gone to reach to level of about 20%. So that means 1/5 of your staff are completely new, and that has been a challenge. I mean, almost 40-50% of them have gone overseas, but I think those gaps created has also given opportunity for the staff to move around with the other banks, or even for that matter, even the other corporates. So that's another area that we need to basically handle in terms of managing 2024 and beyond.
The bankers' plates are pretty full.
Much full, yes.
Mr. Seneviratne, you spoke of a lot of areas, but I'm going to zone in on the SME sector. Of course, now this sector, everyone says how it's the backbone of any economy, and they've been going through the mill for the last so many years. Looking at it from the demand side, from the SME side, what would you say, what does the picture look like for 2024 for SMEs existing and those who are hoping to get into it?
I think most of the SMEs are now only coming to terms with one is the rates that have come down, because earlier they were really challenged with high rates. And I must say the SME is the backbone of the economy. But they are the first to get affected also in a economic downturn, because people's paying capacity, people's spending capacity all got impacted. So the easier ones that you try to curtail your expenditure is probably the area that SMEs are catering to a certain extent, or even the trading activities. But now that inflation has come down to a significantly lower level, and you see a prospect of economic turnaround, that's a sector that should pick up fast as well. Now, so that I would say it's a mixed bag for SMEs. Now, those who have, I mean, different based on the industry that you are in. Some industries are picked up really well, but still some are struggling. So we need to also have different tools to support them and get them out from this. So to answer your question, it's a mixed bag. But I think from the banking perspective, what we are trying to do is actually supporting them in their revival. Now, for example, NDB went on to the extent of setting up a remedial unit, not the recovery unit when they were in trouble, a remedial unit where we see the signs of their deterioration early. It may be the non-performing, it's not going to the non-performing level, but the say high check returns, or there are various signs of early issues that we can pick up. So the moment you see that, we basically take care of those accounts by being handled by some of the most experienced relationship managers in the bank, who can be the financial advisor for these SMEs. So we took that initiative about a year ago, and we see quite a good progress of those accounts that have been handled by the remedial management unit, and they see us as an advisor to them, because that's the time that they also need financial advice rather than going behind them and trying to recover. So I think that kind of strategies would help, and when they recover, they know that okay, the NDB is a bank that helped during my challenging times, and here when I am picking up also, that's a bank for me to work with even in the long term, because that's a culture that we have built within NDB to support them even when they are in the difficulties, if we know that it's a real right reason that they are having that problem. But of course, if it is a willful default situation, the case is completely different, where we go all out to ensure that the depositors' monies are safeguarded. So these are some of the ways that SMEs can be managed. And I would say that one good thing is Sri Lankan entrepreneurs are quite determined, and they are quite eager to look for the opportunities and make use of that opportunity. What they need is good financial guidance and advice, and that's where a bank like us can help, and we have the tools also to help them. And that is the basically even our staff throughout all the branch network have been provided with these tools, provided with the training how to handle these type of challenges, and provide financial advisory when they are coming out from their challenges.
Mrs. Seneviratne, I think you presented a very keen insight there. Financial management ability of SMEs. I mean, this is something I think, crisis or not, is not considered a strong point when it comes to SMEs. So looking at the embedded challenges of paying back or managing finances, has Sri Lanka progressed in it? Have we done something to help them, or if not, what should be done as a country to make sure that SMEs optimize their finances?
Okay. So I think one of the key challenges these SMEs are having, most of them are single entrepreneur or a family owned business kind of, where they also have the business concept and basically run with that business concept, where without probably not getting enough professional input also to ensure that it's a proper plan. Now, the other thing is the discipline. Unfortunately, most of the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, moment you get your facility and start doing that business, your other interests come in as a priority. So we had seen enough cases where bank funds that were intended for the working capital purposes and all are diverted to get something, maybe a luxury vehicle or another project that you think that yes, that's a project that I should get, so that you lose your concentration on the core business and you go for some of the others. Now that discipline is important, and that is where good financial advisory services can play a role. So as a result, what has happened is over the years, because of the diversion of funds, banks approach to the SMEs have been also a bit of risk averse. So as a result, the other challenge is that most of the SMEs are not preparing their financials in an accurate manner. So when your financials cannot be relied on, now that's where the banks have another challenge. In fact, NDB also came up with some of the solutions here. One was providing a ERP solution. Now ERP solution, if a bank provides, bank would have the understanding of a customer's stock level, data position, all that, so that you can take a conscious decision based on your receivables and the stocks level. Now, but unfortunately, most of the SMEs are even reluctant to get into that ERP platform, which is even offered at a nominal rate for this, because they are concerned about some of the other concerns rather than sharing that with us. So that has also not worked well. So what is the solution here? Now, SMEs, they want to grow, but financial discipline is one thing. So that banks are asking also some other, in the most cases, they are asking for tangible security in the form of property mortgage. That's a usual tangible security the local banks are looking at. And most of the SME, they don't have to cover the expected facility. Now that's where a big gap that Sri Lanka had all this time was how to support these SMEs. Of course, ADB and all have come up with some funding arrangement in terms of low cost funding. Now there again, the entire credit risk is taken by the banking sector. And if the bank is, so as a result, probably banks also might use those funds with the customer that they are comfortable with, but not the ones that who are really want to grow, but they may not have that kind of relationship with the bank. Now that is where the National Credit Guarantee Scheme is a key development that is coming up, and with the Asian Development Bank technical advisory, and also with them putting in capital, we have established a National Credit Guarantee Institute incorporated in Sri Lanka, mainly driven by the Finance Ministry with the ADB guidance, and banks also part of the shareholders. So these are first time that has happened, and I am a founder director of National Credit Guarantee Institute as well, representing the banking sector. So one of the key element here is so far ADB has committed $50 million, and the banking sector, the financial bank, non-bank financial institutions, some of them are also involved in that. So banking sector has contributed about 10 million. So all in all, about $60 million, almost about 19 billion rupees as capital. But the beauty is that it's not only using the capital, but this institution will provide credit guarantees. So if a borrower, say, $1 million rupees or 10 million rupees, the credit guarantee scheme will provide up to about 70% of the credit is guaranteed. So the banks will carry only 30% of the risk. So when 70% is guaranteed by National Credit Guarantee Scheme, one advantage is the risk-weighted assets on an asset given to SME. Right now, risk-weighted asset is around 60% risk-weighted. But when it is guaranteed by the National Credit Guarantee Scheme, it will come down to 20%. So there's a 40% risk premium being released, which can be basically provided as a low-cost funding for the SME. And how the National Credit Guarantee Scheme works is that for the guarantees that we provide, we charge about 1 to 2% commission. So that's one of the fee revenue for the National Credit Guarantee Scheme. So plus the investment of this capital, that also you can really make use of. So we are estimating about 4 to 5 times of that value to be given as guarantees for the SMEs. So most likely that would start from second half of this year. Right now we are in the process of setting up for the operation. They're getting the management team for that. And that would be a big change from the where it was in terms of supporting the SMEs.
It's time to take a very short break, but we'll soon be back to talk more about banking.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging media.
You're mobile, and so are we.
Gets me going.
Grab the Lite 87 app at the Apple App Store or Google Play now.
87.8 and 87.6 island-wide. Lite 87.
Welcome back to the show. Tonight we're talking with the CEO of NDB, Mr. Dimantha Seneviratne. Mr. Seneviratne, in one of your previous answers, you talked about the importance of financial discipline. Now, banks work very closely, like you mentioned the example of NDB too. Apart from financial assistance, you said you give advice and recommendations. What are the other avenues that banks as a whole should give to SMEs apart from loans and borrowings and financial aid?
Yeah, so I think that's where now our entrepreneurs have brilliant business ideas, but taking it to the market also some may find it challenging. Now we have seen it, especially now we are quite big in women-driven business development. NDB is really a support of that, and for example, the NDB Vanita Abhimana award scheme for the women entrepreneurs and all. So I mean, even in that industry, what we are seeing is, yes, they have brilliant products, but when you take it to the market, sometimes you misread the market, and sometimes you may produce it without realizing that the market has the capacity to absorb it. Now, so that's the data, the research on your market research and all that, one thing that is lacking in terms of most of the SME that have failed. So that's where I think they need to also do their research right. Other thing what we provide is the continuous training on this financial aspect, financial literacy to these entrepreneurs. That's where all the NDB bank staff who are involved in SME sector, the branch banking staff have been provided with training, and they have been conducting workshops as well for the SMEs about the financial literacy, managing that, even to the extent of even setting up of a company for them. Now, some of them, they have to set up a partnership or even the process of registering them, getting the business registration, articles, all that. Our legal team also have helped them. So that consultancy kind of advisory service is another thing that banks can provide to the SME apart from the financial services. Then the understanding on the trade products. Now most of them are not aware of the trade products, the guarantees facilities, the the import bill payments or the export bill discounting. I mean, some of those things, these are core banking products, but most of them are not aware. So again, providing that kind of training is also important to educate them, and also educate them to get their financials properly audited and have them constructed in a manner that they can take it to a financial institution and get that funding. Because they now, hopefully this would get corrected going forward, but right now they are only preparing for the tax purposes, etc., and maybe a set of account for the owners. But I think that discipline we need to get them inculcated to prepare that, and that's where even the Chartered Institute has come up with some solutions to provide them consultant services, etc., to get them prepared, even to do a proper project plan. Even to come to a bank, most of the SMEs are struggling to come up with a business proposal, how to construct it. So now that's where some of our senior credit officers are good in advising them, but ideally that should come from the customer himself by approaching some professional advisory service to put them across in a nice way. So these are some value added services that the banks can really support to the SME sector.
It's not just about an idea.
No. Certainly you have to develop it and ensure that it's executed as well. I mean, idea is nice, but when you try to execute it, so many things can go wrong. But that's where your ability to cope up with those challenges, new idea coming in, those things also matter. So yes, you may have a brilliant idea, but good to run it through some support from some of the financial sector's experts. Because other thing is, now banks are involved in so many businesses. So your credit officer or no, that's why again banks can provide services in terms of giving that advisory service, because we had seen maybe the same industry, we know maybe the margins in that particular industry, or the average data period for that particular industry, or what is the creditor turnaround time, what are the common problems that the industry is faced with. Some you may not be familiar with, but that's, as a banker having handled similar industry, that's where we can add value as well.
Thank you. Mr. Seneviratne, we've been talking about bankers, we've been talking about SMEs. My last question, I think, to you is going to be a little different. I'm going to ask something from the perspective of the general public. I mean, you have a very significant legacy in banking, 34 years, and from that 10 years in CEO capacity. From that kind of background, what is your message to the public who is currently, I would say, in a little bit of a grey area, because we've had so many things coming in, the IMF program, debt restructuring, VAT increases, tax increases, and it's clear that for Sri Lanka to come out of this crisis, we need to do it together, and there needs to be buy-in from everybody. For the public, for the general populace who's thinking, why are we going through all of this? Why should we pay taxes? Why should we go through this program? What is your message to them? What is their role to make sure that they keep their leaders accountable? And what is their role to really help the country out of the crisis?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of questions about this IMF program and why we need it, the increase in the tax, or the fuel prices, the market-driven formula, or the recent VAT increases, all that. Yes, it's a big burden to all of us, and we had seen huge expenditure going out, and day by day our amount that we can spend has come down, and we think that it's one reason is IMF, but I think it's not the right approach. IMF is there to support countries who are going through difficulties, because when no one else is funding them, I mean, we earlier had the bilateral arrangement with the lenders, but when a country is in a default situation, IMF is the last resort to come up with the funding. Now, there again, of course, they are coming with certain, having studied our economy, and certain recommendations how the economy should go through. So in doing so, we need to also ensure that we manage it hand in hand with the right government policies. Now, otherwise, now this is the 17th time that Sri Lanka has gone for IMF correction. Now, 16 earlier ones, all of them, most of them have basically stopped halfway. maybe the government changed and then it's not continued. Now we need to ensure that these corrective policies are taken seriously, not because we want to get this 2 billion funding, already we got one tranche release, but more importantly how we can come out from this current challenges and progress, because Sri Lanka is a remarkable country. We had gone through a 30-year war. We had so much of potential, highly literate people, island country, very educated, very energetic crowd people. Most of them are leaving the country, unfortunately. But what can be, it's a beautiful country that we can really get out from this mess. But it's all to do with government policies as well. Now I'll take one example. In 1991, India, one and only time that they went for IMF correction was in 1991, when they were really down with their reserves and they were compelled to get facilities from IMF. And that time, if I remember right, around $2.5 billion that IMF approval, which is similar to what Sri Lanka is getting now. And this was, mind you, in 1991 for India. But what they did was, and at that time, the Indian situation was so bad, IMF didn't give that facility unsecured basis. Actually, they asked for security. Now, in Sri Lanka's case, we are not asked any security. Whereas in 1991, India, they have to basically pledge their dollar reserves, Indian dollar reserves. They had to actually airlift them to Bank of England and also Bank of Zurich, if I remember right. So that based on that only, IMF released their tranches. But they learned the lesson. And what they did was, at that time, Manmohan Singh was one of the chief economists of World Bank. So they invited Manmohan Singh to come in as a finance minister. And they came up with a policy which basically called LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. And with that policy, which is there for 30 plus years, 91, 2024, 33 years, that policy remains same. So whatever the government comes, they still continue with that LPG policy and see where India was and where they are now. And they are a big economic, big player, superpower now. So now that's thanks to, of course, the IMF correction program, but they came up with a policy. Whatever the government comes, the policy framework remains same. Now we need to have something like that. We can't have things getting changed whenever the government or the minister change. So we need to have that. So if we can get it right at this time, we have seen we have experienced what economic downturn is. We have physically seen when economists were saying that your reserves are low. We have never seen when the reserves are low and when we didn't have gas to cook or medicine to support, then only we realize real taste of economic downturn. So not to ensure that will happen, and for our future generation, we have to ensure that the policy framework is made right, making use of this opportunity.
And that's a really good case study for us, neighborly case study. Mr. Seneviratne, we've been talking about a lot of things and it's been an insightful conversation. As we wind up the conversation, any closing thoughts that you would like to share with our viewers?
Okay, I think key is we are a brilliant nation. We have all the capacity, all the educational background and all. It's a matter of how you apply that and how you ensure that happens throughout a good policy framework. And I think we are at a time in a real crossroads. We are coming out from an economic downturn and we see there's enough potential. We have seen a lot of staff moving out as well, people leaving the country, looking at probably the opportunities elsewhere is greener. But internally we have a lot of resources, a lot of opportunities, but it's how you ensure that those opportunities are capitalized by having right policies. So ensuring that we have a right policy management framework that we have and get the people to ensure that that is directed, because tremendous opportunity for the country, but we need to ensure that it's governed properly so that we can reap the benefit and get the country out from these challenges and come out. And I'm sure we have the potential with God's grace we should be able to come out if people also work together and have those right policies to implement.
Sorry, I'm going to ask a follow-up question, because you talked about like having opportunities and making sure you overcome challenges. Any examples or advice that you can give us from your own legacy? Because I think you've been at the helm of banking at a time, at a decade when Sri Lanka went through every negative thing that it can possibly go through. So looking at how you maneuvered the challenges and made sure that, I mean, whichever bank you were in, currently NDB, that it reached the pinnacle and I think beyond potential. Any advice that you can give stemming from that to the country?
Okay. No, thanks. Yeah. So 10 years as a CEO of a bank. So prior to NDB, now NDB 7+ years. Prior to that, I was CEO of Pan Asia Bank. Of course, prior to that, 15+ years with HSBC here locally, and also some of the other global countries. But I think, yes, talking about that turnaround, I mean, when I took over Pan Asia Bank, I think the asset base was about 65 billion. Within 3 years, we grew it up to 120 billion, and small profit, but crossed 1 billion in 3 years. Now, it's all based on having a clear strategy and ensuring that strategy is executed with the support of all. So getting the buy-in of your people to execute that, and also understanding the customer perspective and catering that. I think that same thing I deployed at NDB in 2017 when I took over. We were like 7th or 8th largest in terms of assets. But NDB was, it's like a ship, huge potential, but not sailing the way it should sail. When I say huge potential, because the development banking heritage, very well trained staff, good brand name, all that. But we were not capitalizing on that, and we were not going toward the customers and ensuring the customer aspects are looked at. So the one key thing that I did was changing the mindset of the bank. And for that, even for the country also, we need to have that mindset change, the positive mindset, and getting everybody to work towards one goal. That's what NDB did. We basically call it one NDB goal, and change the culture, because NDB also came up with different cultures at that time. The development banking culture, the ABN AMRO culture, some of the other bank cultures, all that there we align into one. And even for the country also, I think we need to have that alignment to one goal, and have it long term as well as medium term and short term goals towards that, and executing that strategy. So we came up with initially a transformation 2020 strategy. In 2017 we came, by 2020 we need to reach, say, 500 billion asset base, and we continue to grow. And actually we basically were the highest growing bank. Deposit we have CAGR of 21%, advances 18%. I mean, for 5 years maintaining 21% year-on-year growth, it's not easy. But as far as you have the committed set of people, and we direct it and you execute it, wherever the challenges that they have, we at the top level, we have to ensure that those challenges are supported and provided with guidance, so that you reach that goal. So then thereafter in 2020 we came up with another strategy, Voyage 2025. So for 5 years, because the bank has come to a certain level, actually in 3 years time we became the 4th largest listed bank. So from that 7th level, 4th largest, because size that time matters a lot for NDB, because so that NDB can perform up to the potential when really the balance sheet size is there. So I think we crossed about 840 billion balance sheet, and then we continued in that growth. But I think with the economic downturn, prior to that the COVID, all that actually we had to shift that strategy a little bit. Where you can have a strategy, but I will come up with some of the couple of things that we really continue our digitalization as a core area that we invested. We didn't grow any number of branches, but last 3-4 years we have grown. Our customer base has doubled by having investments in the digital channels. And the other one is the customer centricity, understanding what the customer requires and then come up with solutions rather than what we have and try to push it. So I think country also can learn a lot from these strategies. One key thing is the digitalization of the country as well. I think we are going to take that move, but it's slow, but we can do it faster than that. And also on the cost income side, the managing your cost side, and become more efficient in terms of your processes and all. And through that, I think we have been doing well. I mean, that is why we have been recognized by so many awards like the Banker UK Award or the Global Finance Award as the best bank, as the best digital bank, and recently by LMD as well as the most awarded corporate for 2021 and 2022. So all that, those accolades will come as far as you keep on doing the right things with the support of people. So the key element is getting the buy-in of the people and work with the people, and that is important. Otherwise we can be in nice glassed rooms and not understanding what's the ground reality. So we need to understand the ground reality and be close to the people. And I think with God's grace, definitely God will also provide insights of where to go, where to do these things, and listen to those and ensuring that the end results are achieved. So that commitment is needed, and that commitment is needed from the highest level, and that is what we have provided here. And I'm sure even for the country also, as far as we have committed leaders and entire country aligned to one vision, I think we can achieve those.
One Sri Lanka.
One Sri Lanka, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Seneviratne.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the banking sector with the CEO of NDB, Mr. Dimantha Seneviratne. It was very nice having you on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for having me. Thank you.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.